Hello and welcome to Drive and Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into this week, I want to talk to you about our Patreon. If you head on over there and help support the channel for $5, you get tons of content, lots of bonus content, some fun stuff, and you become a designated pimp on the channel. So, yeah, exactly. We will call you a pimp if you ask us to. So, head on over there,
I
check
didn't
us
agree
out.
to that.
Well, I'm making the rules here today. I will call them a pimp. Is that okay?
Since you already promised, I got to fulfill obligations.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad. But let's go ahead and get into this Bond Moreau week. And of course, it's Tuesday, so we're talking about James Bond. And we are talking about Casino Royale. And we're no, not Woody Allen. We're not going back to Woody Allen. I know, Ryan, you were about to be like, Woody Allen, I love Woody. Yes. Yeah,
No,
no.
I was going to say I love Barry Nelson.
Yeah, no, not even Barry Nelson. No, we are talking about Daniel Craig's first Bond movie from 2006. Of course, Pierce Brosnan. I was getting into a little bit of the history here, and I saw some interviews. I don't know if you know this, Ryan, but he was so ready to make a fifth Bond movie. Like he had said yes and everything, and like they were setting him up to be in another one, and then they kind of shut that down and they wanted to just completely reboot everything that they had worked towards. So bye bye, Pierce.
What
I
a
mean,
what a nice, so generous to him.
yeah, exactly. You get to take a break, take a vacation from Bond.
We
Uh,
don't need you anymore.
and see, I will say it is a little sad. And because we both say like Pierce Brosnan is like an iconic Bond when we think of James Bond, that's who we think of. And not I just think it's the movie's fault that like it is because the last two movies have been so awful. Like they haven't been good movies, and you know he could have gotten the reboot like kind of what's the one after Moonraker? For Your Eyes Only.
Right.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, we're doing a little more grounded here. He could have gotten something like that, but instead they just drop him. But that's okay because we do get someone fresh, Daniel Craig, who the I'm so it's kind of crazy because I was actually like I mean, I was cognizant for Die Another Day, but I was starting to really get into movies at this time and internet culture. And do you remember when Daniel Craig was announced? There was actual outrage
I
over
remember,
this. Yeah. It was a huge
me
deal. A lot of people.
included.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, were you upset over it?
Kind of, yeah. Because I mean, I was like, I love Die Another Day as a kid, and it's like
Uh-huh.
I wanted more Pierce Brosnan, and plus two, it's just a very different looking Bond. It's like blonde
Mhm.
hair, blue eyes. It's like
Yeah.
not who you would expect for a blonde Bond to look like.
Exactly, yeah. So, and that's just a big deal. Is like even the blonde hair, just the blonde hair in general, I think upset quite a bit of people. And he definitely has a different look than every other Bond. And me, I was, I liked Bond enough. I don't think I cared all too much. But I do remember watching this movie. I did not see it in the theater. Did you see this one in the theater?
I did.
Yeah, this one was a Blockbuster rental. I remember watching it and it was good. I remember my dad who like doesn't watch James Bond. Like he's like seen like maybe two, and I think both of them are Daniel Craig movies. Uh
I'm gonna take a. Oh, I was gonna take a stab and say like one of them was Moonrakers.
I rewatched it a few years ago. And I think I liked it a little less. And now I feel like I'm just wishy-washy because I rewatched it again. No, this movie rocks.
So okay, I was creeping on your letterbox,
Hmm.
and you watched this movie about 3 years ago,
Oh God.
and you gave it a 3 stars. You're like, it's pretty dumb, like, but it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I read it and I was like, huh, that's I mean, I remember my watching it. I watched it on like I think it was like a Monday morning, start of a new week, and I wasn't that into it. I don't know, there was something
Yeah,
about it.
you had your you had your COVID mask on, and you were like,
Probably.
sitting in your living room, just like
Spraying the
ordering,
air.
yeah, ordering your Uber Eats.
But no, I think there's something about the fact that we've gone through all these Bond movies and we watched every one of them, and it builds up to like this, what we've gotten here, and just how different this is compared to everything. Even though we've had a Bond movie in the 2000s, this one just feels modern.
That's what I was going. That was my biggest takeaway. Is just like after going through all these, because they're still relatively fresh in our mind, and it's like
Mhm.
when I watched this again, I was like, this is such a refreshing take, like on the Bond
Yeah.
series. Like it adds so much new blood to the series, where it's like actually like exploring who James Bond is, like as a character, versus like, oh, it's just he's James Bond and here's the mission he's got to go do. But it's like this one, it's like kind of reminiscent of On Her Majesty's Secret Service a little bit,
Mhm.
where it's like plays into Bond's emotional side, because this is supposed to be like a fresh Bond. He didn't even have double O status at the very beginning of the movie.
Yes, exactly. In our very beginning of the movie, because this is like kind of the start of like the soft reboot thing, right? Where like it's not a full on reboot, but we're rebooting kind of the character, the ideas of it. This is a Bond origin story, seeing where he started from. He doesn't even have a double O status. Um, yet, and he has to kill two people, so we kind of get that status, and we get that intro in black and white where he beats up somebody in a bathroom, and then he also shoots an MI6 agent that is selling secrets. And there's just something about like this opening sequence that just feels so good. It's shot really well between the like really grimy fight, which is and we'll go over this more and more, but Bond is very sloppy in this one. He's not like the clean killer, he's a beginner and he is still making tons of mistakes. So we're seeing this bathroom get destroyed in this fight.
That's what I was gonna say. Like this Bond is not refined at all. It's very
No.
much like he's beginner status, like because I guess he hadn't technically killed anyone at that point. So
Hmm.
this was like Bond's first chance at killing somebody, and it's like a
Hmm.
very sloppy kill.
Yeah, and like you'll see that a lot during this whole movie. It's just kind of like the sloppiness and ego. That is like the word of this movie, and like they bring it up all the time. As James Bond has a very inflated ego, and he has to wrestle with that. Um, and you see he's also really cold in this movie because the guy, the MI6 agent, he says like he's just in the middle of talking and James Bond almost like shoots him really quickly, just kind of shuts him up, and that
Oh,
it's very surprising. But yeah, so that is how we get into the gun barrel sequence where he shoots, and we get our opening title sequence of this movie where everyone looks like cards. So it's kind of like this animated thing where people die, the cards spill out. It's a really nice looking scene. I think it's just nice coming from Another Day, which was such a weird opening sequence to something that's clean and looks really nice.
no, in terms of like visuals, definitely one of my favorites.
Hmm.
The song, I don't have any issues with the song. It's a good song, but it's not as memorable, I don't
Hmm.
think, as like some of the other ones. But I didn't have any issues with it. I was just
No,
like,
I,
it's
I,
I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't say it's like in my top five, but I would say, oh yeah, that was a good song. That was a good intro.
no, I actually like the song. It's Chris Cornell. I think on its own, when I listened to it for another podcast a little bit ago, I didn't love it, but in terms of like the movie and like that opening scene, I think it works really well. It's just your normal rock song, kind of what you'd expect from Chris Cornell. But what I do like, and I mean every Bond does this, where it takes its opening or it takes its like theme song and makes it part of like the music, the orchestra. But I think the orchestral version worked really well in some of the scenes for this movie when it popped up later. Just the music in general is really good. They actually don't use the James Bond theme till the end of the movie, which I think is so surprising because like I'm used to watching a James Bond movie and hearing that like
Dun,
all the time.
dun, dun, dun,
Yeah, just like in like the video games where it's like, yeah, this song is going to be playing the whole time. That's the song.
I forget, it was either Nightfire or Everything or Nothing, where it was
Yeah.
just like every time you'd like accomplish like a mission, they would play like dun 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 and just
Yeah.
and I was like, you're gonna hear this a lot.
Yeah, I think it's Agent Under Fire that does it and
Yeah.
Nightfire where like there's like little small objectives and they're called like bond moments and they happen all the time and that music plays over and over. I love the song, but God, I need a
I,
break
I they should
sometimes.
do that for like the movie, like anytime like Bond does something cool to do that.
Yeah, he orders the martini at the poker table.
With the little Bond logo like popping up like oh it's a Bond moment.
Bond moment. Yeah, movies should be that sounds like the TikTok version split into like 20 parts of Casino Royale. So right from the top after that, we know James Bond has double O status. So he's in Africa, and he's on the chase for a bomb maker. And the opening scene is like this huge action scene, which is parkour. So this movie feels very much like 2006, not in a bad way, not really in like a I guess like a oh this is outdated way, but I remember in 2006 parkour was like a huge deal. Like everyone loved that stuff. So of course this whole action sequence is free running, the dude jumping off of walls, sliding through things. But it is a really gripping action scene still because it's very practical coming from the CGI heavy Die Another Day.
Yeah, I mean it the stunt in it kind of makes, kind of at least frames it about what time it is or like when this movie was
Hmm.
made, but it's still very well shot and very well. It's a very impressive scene. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
the guy they got in there. I don't know if you watched the behind the scenes at all, but
I
it
didn't
was
get
just
to.
but the guy they got was like one of like the like prime like parkour like people.
Really?
And so like that a lot of that stuff he does in that movie was like stuff like he normally like he does pretty often. And
Mm.
they had to shoot, like they said they had to do so many rehearsals at that point. But yeah, it came out really well because they really utilize the set, like they're jumping like from construction beams and
Mhm.
everything. It's a really good scene.
Yeah, and one of my favorite moments is the moment where the free running guy slips through like the little hole, and then Bond just he breaks through the wall instead, kind of showing that he has to be a little more aggressive. This ain't usually his thing, um, but he ends up killing a bunch of people in an embassy, and of course M is mad, and I guess this is kind of where M is different from the other version, even though it's still Judy Dench, right? Because she came in after the Cold War in the Pierce Brosnan one and says, you're a relic of the Cold War. And now she's like, oh, I miss the Cold War. That's her first line in the movie, and I want to say
Yeah.
that's a sign that like, okay, we're changing her character a little bit in this one.
Yeah. I mean, in this one, she was, I mean, they kind of have like the same deal a little bit, I guess, where it's
Yeah,
like, because Bond, like in the Golden Eye, she just, calls him like super egotistical, like male chauvinist or whatever. And it's like,
yeah, and I still
and
think about your comment to this day of like I couldn't imagine this being said
oh
today
my
without
God,
outrage.
like if the next Bond movie came out and she said that, like there would be headlines like
Yeah,
of that,
yeah.
like out, like just all over the place. But anyway, it's it's more interesting because that because the other Bond, like as Pierce Brosnan, he was already an established Bond. Like this is supposed to be the same Bond from like that was from like the Sean Connery days. So it's like
Hmm.
oh, this is the same guy. It's just he looks different, whatever.
Hmm.
But so it's more like okay, well I gotta have to kind of rein in this dinosaur and like show him like this thing you can't do all that stuff like you used to anymore, James, type of thing. And
Hmm.
now it's the opposite where it's like he's this like hot-headed like young guy like that thinks he's like super egotistical about it, like very the thing about this Bond is that he lets his emotions get the better of him, like, and
Yes.
because the other Bonds, it's very much like, oh, I'm very cool, calm, and collected the whole time, and this Bond is very much like, oh, like I'm pissed. Like that's like the whole thing of like when he was in that embassy, he shot the prisoner like in cold blood, like in front of
Hmm.
everybody, in front of a camera because he was pissed off. He was just like, that's like the
Yeah.
only reason why he did that.
Yeah, he just didn't want to lose. Like he
Yeah.
felt like if he gave him back, it'd be losing, and then it's like, okay, well, I'll just kill him then. I win, kind of deal. And that's what we'll get later in the movie too. Is a lot of that. But I like that gives Bond more character, and it's exploring kind of like what this could do to somebody, who they would look for to be put in this kind of position. Um, but along the way we find out about the Sheaf, played by Mads Mikkelsen, which is crazy because like I know he's like really really popular now. People love that guy, but in 2006 I don't think many people probably even knew who he was.
Oh no, this, I mean, this is definitely his like big star making role, I think. I mean, like nobody really knew who he was at the time when this came out. I feel like, I mean he was like a big uh Danish star
Yeah,
at that point.
Danish. Yeah, because he was
Yeah,
like in Pusher, those movies,
right.
and a
So
few other things.
he wasn't like a total unknown, but like more of like unknown in America, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. But he's such a good pick for a
But
villain.
yeah, but he's no Vladik Shable.
Is that who plays him in the in the other one?
Yeah, Mr. Boogaloo
Mr. Boogaloo?
from the
Oh, that's
Apple.
right. Yes. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And
Hey,
he
that's
was,
tough competition, actually.
well, and he was the bad guy too, and From Russia with Love as well.
Wow, what a great actor. We need to
you
do a
were,
month all about him.
yeah, he gets around.
Yeah, for,
Um,
for sure. Uh,
but no, I definitely like a really. The only thing that probably surprised me the most about this movie is, people talk a lot about how great Mads Mikkelsen is, and that's not me saying he's not great. He is. He's really good in this movie. The thing I forgot is just like how little he has to do, like at the end of the movie. Like it's
yeah.
like like the when he, I mean, spoilers, when he dies, there's like still like another 30 or 40 minutes left of the movie.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about this movie. It's a very subvert your expectations type movie because this movie is all about building up to this poker game, which is we'll get into the setup of that, but it's building up to that, and then when Bond wins the poker game, it's like okay, everything's coming together, and then there's an extra torture scene. Mads dies, and it's like okay, no, there's still like plot points, and we still got to figure out who the other villain is and the double cross.
Well, no, I mean at the end, like him and Vesper get together, and then I was like, oh, it's a nice happy ending. Then I
Yeah.
shut the movie off.
Yeah, when they were in the hotel room together, I got a little bored by the romance, so I dropped it.
Well, I just like, okay, it's happy ending. We're gonna get the credits, and then I was like, that's enough. I don't need to see more. Bond gets his happy ending.
You know how sometimes people in the theater leave a little early before the credits because they know it's over? Do you think anybody did that for this one? Like, it was just like, I'm out. All right, it's over.
You think I probably
I could
it's
see
like,
it. This movie really does feel like it ends at a certain point, or it would end normally.
well, yeah, it's like you're kind of thinking like, okay, we're gonna start getting into like the epilogue type of thing, or like
Mhm.
this is like the final act of the movie, or like we're about to close out here. But no, it's like, no, we're gonna start ramping up again.
Yeah, exactly, and it like goes into a whole different direction. But yeah, so building up to that, we find out Lashif. We learn pretty early in the movie that he's playing the stock market and he's making people commit terrorist attacks. So in this one, the example is a flight. An airline is planning to unveil like a new giant airplane, and it's like, okay, we're going to sell all of our stocks in that, and I'm gonna make money off of that because we're gonna blow up this plane. And so it's like this money laundering scheme, and he's doing it all with other people's money. Um, and of course, MI6 knows about this. After James Bond does this crazy airport chase scene, another huge action scene of him chasing on like an airline in Miami, by the way. Bond back in
Finally,
Miami. Yeah, finally. Has he ever been to Miami, actually?
I think he has.
I think so too, but he's back at it again in Miami. I'm
Wasn't he in
happy.
Miami in like Goldfinger? Wasn't Goldfinger like in Miami, or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Goldfinger. Yeah. That hotel scene where
Yeah, like
where Sean
where he's like,
Connery smacks that lady's ass.
yeah, Sean Cannery,
Yeah,
great
Sean
guy.
Connery. Yeah.
No, he's definitely been to Miami because that's where Goldfinger was like cheating on the poker game, and like the girl
Poker.
was like looking at with her telescope, like, oh, I could see your opponent's cards.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But that's funny that we bring up poker because that is kind of the big deal of this movie. We're building up to a poker game because Lashif's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a big poker game, and that's how I'm gonna win my money back." And MI6 has like a scheme to have James Bond go in and win the poker game and make him go bankrupt, so he'll give away all of his secrets to MI6. I think this is a popular James Bond plot hole. Like this whole setup is really odd, I guess, but I think it's a fun setup because the poker game stuff is shot so well and like and I brought up 2006. Do you remember 2006? Like it was like poker fever. Like World Series of Poker was on TV. Everyone loved poker. That was like a big deal at the time. So it just kind of another thing that worked with the times.
I remember, yeah, they had like celebrity poker where it was just like,
Hmm.
oh, here's Snoop Dogg and Jason Alexander playing poker
Yeah.
together or something.
Yeah, it would be like that, which is so interesting. Um,
Uh, well, yeah, it's mostly poker, but yeah, it's that the game is shot so cinematic, like it's just very exciting, like the way they
yeah.
shoot it. It's like it's never like, oh, like it's boring, because if you watch somebody play cards on TV, it's like dreadfully boring to me, at
Hmm.
least. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
okay, I do not care at all, but
Hmm.
but this one, it's just like, oh yes, he's got the ace.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the way they reveal it when he has like the cards on the table and he just flips it. Um and there's a lot to talk about with this movie because there's just a lot going on, but Jeffrey Wright is in this playing Felix Leiter and is 100% probably the best Felix we've gotten because
I
he's
don't know.
fantastic.
I like the one in License to Kill got his leg eaten off.
Oh yeah, that the one that got his leg eaten off, but he was just fine in the hospital. Yo,
Yeah.
Bond, everything's fine.
Yeah, got a new leg.
Yeah, Jeffrey Wright had a lot to live up to because I remember so many Felix Leiters. I
Yeah,
remember them all.
I was like, he's got both legs. Lame.
Yeah, boring.
I,
But
I want I want more Joe Don Baker. That's what I want.
okay. If they brought back Joe Don Baker, I wouldn't be upset.
Give me more Jack Wade. Like, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm
What's
Jack
his?
Wade. Let me give you money. Something like that.
Yeah, that would have been pretty sweet.
No, instead they got someone who's like cool and is like, no, like he offers him money because that's a whole thing. Bond's ego kind of takes the best of him, and he just loses all of his money in the poker game based off of a bluff. Because the whole time in the movie he's talking about, I know everybody as a tell, and I can read everybody, and he has that confidence. And he thinks he can read Lachif, and Lachif throws him off, and he ends up losing all of his money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back to what you're saying about Felix.
Oh
One
yeah.
thing I do like about him as a character in this movie is, well, one, like, it does Jeffrey Wright, it does appear in the opening credits, like his name, but it doesn't
Hmm.
say who he plays or anything like that.
Hmm.
And so one nice thing about Felix Leiter is that, he could literally be anybody, like in these Bond movies. Because like you
Yeah.
said, like, who remembers what Felix Leiter, I know what Jeffrey Wright looks like, but
Hmm.
I don't know anyone else. But then it's like he just looks like a regular poker player in the movie. And then, like you said, all of a sudden, like when he loses all of his money, he's like, "Hey, Felix Leiter, I can give you some money here. Like, let's work a deal out between us." That was kind of like the start of their relationship.
Yeah, it's like the start of their friendship, which it's good, and they didn't have to make a whole movie just called like just about their meeting.
Lighter.
Yeah, the
Well,
lighter, the origin story. Uh,
That don't give them any ideas. But
Right. Yeah. Well, they're having a hard enough time picking another Bond, so I think we're good.
um, but we didn't even mention the Bond girl though in this
Yeah, I
one,
wanted to bring her up. Yeah,
which is
Vesper.
Solange from the beginning of the movie, where she no.
Yeah. No, yes, Solange and yeah. No, no, it's Eva
Well, we
Green.
well we do see one thing in the Solange scene. Yeah, he does hook up with like one girl who's married, and he wins the car, and he gets to see the Aston Martin.
Yeah, the Aston Martin origin story now.
Yeah, I wish that would have been funny if he's like, these cars suck or something like.
That would have been fun. And he just crashes it or something.
Yeah,
No, no, that whole relationship's really dark. Where like she's dead later for giving away secrets, and he's just like, okay, I don't care,
yeah.
whatever, and they just walk
But
away.
but no, Vesper is the main Bond girl. Like you're right, played by
Hmm.
Eva Green, and
Hmm.
she's the one that initially funds Bond's
Hmm.
um, bank account for the poker game. So they basically front him like £1 million, 10 million pounds, I think.
Something like
And
that.
so he has money to work with, and she's pretty much just like, don't even think about like hitting on me. Like I'm so out of your league, buddy. Like type of thing.
Hmm.
And they have like this real like they shoot a lot of jabs of each other, like just kind of like saying like I wouldn't even date you if I had to type of thing.
Hmm.
And they one thing that's funny is they when they appear at the hotel, like I forget it, they gave him like some like alias. It's like, okay, you're gonna be Mr. Beecham or something. And then he's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be under this name, but my real name's James Bond. And she's just like, what the hell? Like
Yeah. Well, like what? Yeah, no, and she's just pissed at him, but I guess she can't help but be intrigued by him because they get really close throughout this movie. And she's considered Vesper's considered one of the best Bond girls in the series. And yeah, I have to agree. I think she's really good in this role. Eva Green, take her, leave her, whatever. But I think here she does a really good job, and I think their chemistry is really strong.
definitely one of the top Bond girls. Like I don't
Yeah.
know if she's the top, but it definitely one of the top. I
Yeah, I'm
mean,
sorry. I'm sorry. Stacy exists. Otherwise,
Tracy,
oh God, I really just said Stacy. I'll keep it in just to piss
Stacy
off the fans.
Bond,
Yeah, I'm just gonna piss off the Bond fans real quick. But
Sean
no,
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. I don't think a Bond ever took place in Miami.
There's that. This is the first time Felix Leiter's been in a movie.
Finally, from the books, Felix is here. No, yeah, just get everything wrong about these movies we've been watching back to back. But no, that they get close because they actually kill. I like how Lashif is kind of weak in this movie, because he actually has people breathing down his neck for the money and is like held hostage at one point. And Bond actually gets one of the people, tracks him down, and kills him. And Eva Green is witness to this, and they share that moment in the shower where they're both like distraught, kind of after killing a man, or she
Yeah.
saw a death, and it's a moment you wouldn't see in another Bond.
No, I mean, like in the other ones, it's like the Bond girl would have just been like, "Oh, James," and just like been all like after she just saw somebody being murdered.
Hmm. Yeah. But no, what happens is Bond wins, but Lashif does get away and actually kidnaps Bond for one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the torture scene.
The cock and ball torture.
Yeah, that is what it is. It is insane that they cut out the bottom of a chair and Mads slaps Bond in the balls with a rope really hard, and it's such a
That
insane scene.
you wouldn't think like, okay, like Bond strapped to a laser table or whatever, and it's like
Hmm.
evolves into Bond's balls getting like hit by a knotted rope.
Yeah, exactly. And he's screaming like at one point he's going, "Yes, yes," because he's playing with them. And he's like, "You finally got that itch on my balls," or like everybody's gonna know that you itched my balls, which is a great line. But yeah, the chief just dies after that. Just gets shot and he's out of the movie. And like you said, there's still 40 minutes left. And we kind of get insight into Bond's relationship, kind of why he's able to just pick up women, have sex with them, and throw them away. And that's based off of we get a full romance. Really falls in love with Vesper. He quits his job. He resigns his from MI6. And you know what? She double crossed
That's where
him.
the million is. And
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll have to wait till the next one to see how he
Bond,
got back to it.
Bond quits, and then that's the end of the series. It's good,
They
good,
just
nice,
wanted to end it. Yeah.
just a nice bow at the end.
I'm sure MGM and the Broccolis were just, I'm so tired of the money. I don't want the money anymore.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. But no,
No, no, yeah, it's very nice because like you said, it adds a new layer to Vesper as a character
mhm,
because it's she has her own reasons for wanting the money, like because all the money from the
mhm,
poker game, she ends up stealing it from Bond,
mhm.
and the whole point was, like Bond, like he thought, he found out, so they're thinking like she did it for her own nefarious reasons or whatever.
Mhm.
And it has a really great final ending sequence at the end where she's like trapped in an elevator shaft,
Yes, yeah.
and water is just continually rising, and Bond is just like frantically trying to save her.
Yeah, and it's a really what a great set piece. I was just watching it and I was like, who came up with this idea? Because it's in Venice and they have flotation devices, and he shoots the flotation devices and that slowly fills up the building with water and it starts to crumble. I'm like, who thought of this? That is such a creative like action set piece, and the whole fact that she gets trapped in that elevator. Really solid work. And she's and it's kind of boring and dumb, by the way. I've been self-reflecting, and I'm like, I'm always wrong. I feel like I can't even trust my own opinions half the time.
So you can definitively say it's better than the last time you watched it.
Oh, 100%. Like I actually like really like this movie. Like tenfold. It's a great
It,
movie.
it was okay. Yeah, I liked it. It's one of my favorite Bond movies.
Wait, are you saying I'm like Tarantino? You know what? I'll take it. But yeah, Vesper dies, and he does find out that she was blackmailed into doing it, but like he gets a very cold response. It's the bitch is dead.
Well, yeah, he says that first.
Uh-huh. Yes,
He
yeah.
he says that first, and then M is kind of telling, very much like, okay, like don't let the emotions get a better of you. He said, and like she kind of like comes in and plays like a little bit of like in her own way, like being like kind of comforting, like, well, think about it, like
Yes, yeah.
how do you think you got out of that situation alive? She obviously made a deal because she wanted you alive. So she
Hmm.
pretty much gave herself up and the money in order to let you live. So he kind of had like that nice little, like, okay, like she was still in love with me. It's just she kind of had to do what she had to do type of thing. But
Exactly, yeah. But it's probably a mix of the anger and as well as like probably never wanting to be hurt like that again.
that,
Never have to go through that
exactly.
pain again.
That's the
Um,
main thing. It's just like, I can't believe I got so vulnerable like that. That'll never
yeah.
happen again.
Oh yeah, never will happen in the Daniel Craig Bonds ever again.
No, Daniel Craig, pre robotic.
I agree. No, I
Well,
think
maybe in the next one.
yeah, well, we'll have to see. I remember not liking Quantum of Solace either, but that opinion might stick around. Um, but I think overall, Casino Royale is pretty fantastic Bond movie. It is great. It looks great. The action set pieces are good, and Daniel Craig is just a really good Bond. I was watching him in this, and I was like, I can't believe people rank him so low, and it might come with time. But if I were to judge him based on this first movie, I think he's a great Bond. I know we'll get into more of what happens to him as the Bond movies go on. But he's young, and it's probably one of the better premieres for a Bond.
No, yeah, like he had so much writing on this one. Like it could have
Mhm.
easily have just been like it could. This was like the worst Bond movie. Like he would have gone down. It's like I don't think he would have gotten a second chance.
No.
And But this one, he really, there was a lot of people like thinking he was going to fail or it was
Hmm.
going to suck or whatever. And, he pretty much proved a lot of those people wrong with this movie.
Hmm.
And definitely, like you said, probably one of the better premieres. Well, I mean, like pretty much, I mean, really every Bond has like a really good premiere so far.
No, I agree.
So
I say that, but like I think all
I,
of them are good. But I think maybe it's the most confident premiere because sometimes some of the Bonds, they get better as time goes along, and I feel like Daniel Craig just really starts like as like a great Bond.
yeah, I mean, I think so. I think a lot of people were I remember a lot of people being very high on the movie when it came out. And
Hmm.
so it definitely stands the test of time. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of the old tired tropes like a
No.
lot of some of the other ones do, and it doesn't feel super dated. There's nothing really corny or cheesy in this one. So, um,
Mhm.
just a really great entry into the series. Probably one of the more, probably one of the best ones.
I agree. I think it's one of the best. It'll definitely rank high whenever we rank all these suckers a little bit later down, which is coming closer and closer. Um, but we will wrap it up there. This movie was a huge success, 600 mil. So, of course, they're making a sequel, and James Bond will return in Quantum of Solace. People get excited for that one. Uh, yeah, yeah.
Or no, GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. Okay, we'll just go back to GoldenEye.
No, the GoldenEye video game.
Oh, of course, that would be
Where you
fun.
pretend Daniel Craig's in GoldenEye.
Yeah. Oh, that. Yeah, that one. Or then they have like 007 Legends that went through like all of like the old movies, and they just put Daniel Craig like in Moonraker.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into or Ryan, what are we covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we're going to go into our second half of the week by talking about 1970s Gamera versus Jiger, and that is streaming for free on Tubi right now.
Be sure to email us over at driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast@gmail.com. Send us any recommendations. Tweet at us over at DIDFpod. But until next time.
Until next time.